Hello, Internet. It is Frazly. This week is a little bit different. I'm unable to do the live show, so instead, I talked with two brothers and a friend who call themselves Back to Azeroth. They've been in and out of WoW over the years, but they came back for Legion. This was recorded on January 5th. We talked about Legion, a bit about Classic, and also what was back then going to be coming in 7.3.5. I had a great time, and definitely think you will enjoy the interview. At the end, I'll have a very special episode of the Fraz Report. If anything big happened in WoW this week, you may hear about it from me on Twitter, and I'll definitely talk about it on FrazlCast 48 when we resume our live show schedule on March 29th. Well, let's start the Gnome Train! Woo woo! Chugga 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 chugga. Woo woo! Your audio looks like it's recording, so I think we're all good.
Nice. Okay, cool. And we've got Noob and Chief in the room too, but he's not as close to the phone, so he might chime in here every once in a while. But he was the one who was kind of talking with you before and got everything set up.
So is it three brothers?
So it's two brothers, and then one of our good friends as well, who which is Noob and Chief, who's the guy who reached out. So he just kind of he's been in the mix with us. He kind of helps keep us motivated to get together, and he kind of helps coordinate and everything. So he's one of our good buddies. I
love hearing the stories of different groups and different gaming groups.
Oh, yeah. I'll give a little bit more background there, too.
Okay.
Vitalit and I, we're brothers, so we've been playing WoW together off and on since it came out. And I know you're playing right now in Legion, right, Frazly?
Yes.
And were you playing vanilla as well, and kind of have you played pretty continuously, or were you off and on as well? Or
I did vanilla to about 2006, and then my guild broke apart due to DKP, so I lost my community.
Mm-hmm.
I came back for Cataclysm, but I wasn't quite feeling it, and that was kind of back when Twitter was still not quite there, so there was still hard to find a community.
Yeah.
Last year, I was like, I'm going to go back to WoW again. And actually, no, it's 2016. But I came back to WoW, and with Twitter, with Discord, I finally found a place.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. I mean, that was one of the things that kind of drove us. We were actually playing EverQuest 2 and World of Warcraft came out right around the same time. And
yeah,
I was really into EverQuest. And so we actually got WoW, played it for like maybe a couple weeks, and then went back to EverQuest 2, which in hindsight was the right move. But we came back to WoW and played pretty much continuously from vanilla all the way through Lich King.
Wow, nice.
There was some breaks there. We're 3 years apart, so I think I'm trying to think what grade I was in when WoW came out. I think it was 7th grade. And so, obviously you had some school things pop up, so you'd be off and on a little bit. But the summers, we were definitely consistently playing. Yeah, we played through Lich King, and then after Lich King, we basically took a break. I think I was pretty close to going to college at that point. I remember actually kind of how that went. It mentions it on the blog, but essentially Raenes had to go off to college. And this is when I guess we decided to take a hiatus from World of Warcraft. It was right before, I think, Burning Crusade came out, actually. It was something like that. And then I decided to just pick up the game randomly with one of my high school friends. And we're like, oh my gosh, like Burning Crusade, like this is so cool. So I called Raenes and I was like, you have to re-download this game to play with me again. Then we downloaded that. And I think that was actually going into high school, not college. We kind of had that fire reignited through the Burning Crusade because we took a break after vanilla for a while. It's happened a couple of times, yeah. And then I think after Lich King, we both kind of took a hiatus. I know Vitalit jumped back in for Cataclysm, I think, for a little bit, but I didn't play. Mm-hmm. And then I, heard really good things about Legion. And so I played Legion for a little bit, and also kind of dabbled around on the vanilla legacy servers. So played on there for a little bit. And after that, I called Vitalit and I was like, hey, it would be fun if we kind of, for nostalgia's sake, play 1 to 110 and kind of capture it all. And originally we were just thinking, hey, we'll kind of keep a journal, and that's kind of the beginning of the blog. And then, it expanded to, hey, let's make sure we're videoing the whole journey so we can do some videos after. And yeah, we really just thought that there was probably a lot of people out there that kind of shared the same story that me and my brother had, which was we kind of bonded, even though there was years in between us. We bonded through video games like EverQuest or video games like World of Warcraft. And the fact that we get to
now that we kind of have more things going on in life, that we can come back and re-experience everything we, stayed up to like 4 a.m. doing when we were kids. Like, it's just made it a really like meaningful adventure, revisiting all of that.
Nice. So would you say that WoW is a game that you can come back to and then like play when you need a game to play, but then you can set it aside for a little bit?
Yeah, I think, in my personal opinion, World of Warcraft has always been kind of like how you said it, like a game in the background. But I definitely think that times have kind of changed and the game has taken like another direction. So while we are doing a lot of this for nostalgia's sake, I think we're pretty excited to actually experience like Legion and like the new content like the game has to offer. So like, it's not just a background game. It's, it's kind of new and improved for us. Wouldn't you say, Raenes?
Yeah, no, I'd agree. And I think, after I played the Legion content, I told Vitalit, I was like, hey, this is a lot of fun. This is the most fun I've had playing WoW, in a long time. And it obviously, taking a hiatus and a break as well gives you some time to kind of come back and everything's fresh again. But no, I think that's a good way to put it. WoW is always a game that we would play pretty intensely at times. And then when it was on the back burner, we would really place it kind of on the shelf for a couple months, play other games and things. And then we would kind of come back and really get back into it. So I think for us, it's just ebbed and flowed throughout the years. And it's kind of, we're back on with WoW now. So it's been fun.
Yeah.
So one thing that I was kind of hearing is I heard the allure of vanilla and kind of vanilla legacy private servers, but I'm also hearing that you're enthralled by the Legion. So with the fact that Classic's coming back, are you at a crossroads at where you're going to take your WoW journey?
Yeah, no, I think that's a good question. That's a great question. And honestly, we're very close to the Legion content, but Vitalit hasn't even experienced it yet. So, but I think, from my perspective, I played Legion from when Legion came out, I played through the Draenor and the Legion content. And I think for me and Vitalit, when the legacy servers come out from Blizzard, there'll be no question. I think that's going to be top kind of destination for us. Just because, vanilla holds a really special place for us, just since that's when we really could just play, like you were saying, video games nonstop until 4 a.m. and things of that nature. We have a lot of really, really good memories with vanilla. And so it'd be fun to try to get the band of a couple guys that we played with back on and get them into the legacy servers. And I think, from just what I'm reading on Reddit and seeing from whenever they announce the legacy servers, I think there's a lot of people that are going to be playing as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, especially because it's going to be the Blizzard polish. It's going to have the Blizzard scripting, and Blizzard's not going to put it out until they're ready for it to be out.
Mm-hmm. Which makes me, really excited, just because, like I said, I played Nosteralis and it was good, but you're right. There's something to be said about just having that Blizzard polish on it and just making sure that everything's fine tuned. But I will be interested to see how they handle. Are they going to have a BC server? Are they just going to do strictly vanilla? Mm-hmm. Are they going to have microtransactions in there for things? So I'm kind of interested to see how, once all the specifics get released on it. But regardless, I know we'll definitely be on day one.
For me, I think just in general, as we grow up, we have like memories we're really fond of in particular parts of life. And you're usually not ever really able to revisit those memories. And so you just keep them, in the highest regard, like, I guess, like on your mental shelf, you can call it. So what I'm curious about is coming back to vanilla WoW, if I'm like a little nervous that it might not meet the expectations I have for it. So that is something I think we're very excited for, but also we're kind of like, I wonder if we're going to be
a little hesitant.
Yeah. No. So that's something we're looking forward to trying, at least.
Yeah. And I'm with you. I've been hearing about the things vanilla had. I'm like, wow, I forgot about that. And the things I take for granted nowadays.
Like World PvP is one. That was fun.
There's so many. Yeah, there's so many. Yeah. There's a lot of things that when I got on Nosteralis that I was just like leveling up your weapon skills.
Yeah.
There's certain things that you're like, all right, I enjoy doing this my first time around. Let's see if I like it again. But it's just throwback with, there's parts that were pretty grindy. Like, I have a lot of memories of grinding whether it was for gold or reputation or battlegrounds, or there's just a lot of ground.
Yeah, I might not have the patience anymore to level up your save skill to like 250 or whatever it was.
Yeah, someone was saying that Classic could be coming out to capitalize on like the Dark Souls, Demon Souls genre of the hardcore modes, or like the BioShock Infinite 1999 mode.
Yeah, that's interesting.
I hadn't heard that. Can you elaborate on that just a little more?
I think it was, I'm trying to remember which podcast it was. It might have been Blizzard Watch, but they were talking about how there is a demographic that likes games to be tough, and vanilla was tough. And what they could be trying to do is to bring Classic out, give it a little bit more of a challenge, because you have to work at it. Every character has to have their own mount.
Mm-hmm.
I had a priest that I brought into from Legion, and the priest did not even have its level 60 mount until I started playing in Cataclysm.
Oh, yeah. That's a really good point, because that kind of like makes me remember, because World of Warcraft, I mean, you can argue it now, but back then it had definitely a learning curve, and you had to put time to really kind of like get the feel for the game. I think they kind of moved away from that a little bit, like really helping you like with where to go for quests, or like you said with your mount, like when you got to the level, usually you couldn't afford like an epic mount at 60. Like you really had to farm, and you had to spend hours and hours. And it really, just made everything like very rewarding when you did get things. So I think there definitely are players, and I would kind of put myself in that category as the type of player that like would like things to be difficult. So I feel that like I'm really achieving something.
Yeah. And Modern WoW, I will say, is it can get difficult when you get into like Mythic Pluses and Mythic rating. But on one hand, it can be pretty simple. I mean, I'm going around Argus by myself, taking down most of these enemies. And if I need to take down a group, I just open up WorldCrest Group Finder, and I'm already...
Yeah, that was one thing that we kind of were replaying, this journey from 1 to 110. We decided, hey, let's do some of the classic dungeons, and Dungeon Finder made it. I mean, it zones you there. It gets the group. You're doing cross-server.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was very interesting. Like, and obviously I didn't expose that in Draenor and Legion when I came back to play, but it still is like, when you think about it from that lens of vanilla, it's definitely different, especially when, grouping with people that aren't from your server. There's kind of a piece there where it's going to be nice when it goes back to the legacy servers, where you can actually like start to build a brand on your server.
Yeah.
You're known.
I like how like players on servers could have like a reputation. You would run into like, say your alliance, you'd run into like this horde guy because he's kind of on the same leveling path as you, and you guys are always around the same level, and you know him, and you kind of have like this grudge with him, and you guys always fight each other. It was little things like that I think kind of went away when things started going cross-servered. But I understand why they did it.
Yeah, but I am with you. I mean, there was a reputation, like, and you knew guilds on your server. I mean, it's weird going through Dalaran, you see your main server first, but then after that, you're like, oh, that person's in that server. Yeah, and there is a slight loss of that server community. Because I remember like the forum post of like the different servers against each other. Our server's better than your server.
Yeah. No, it's a great point. And I think that was one of the things that made, vanilla so fun. And you called it out as well, Frazley, that, hey, when you have that community, whether it's your guild or, people that you're playing with on a consistent basis and that are all on your server and are hanging out in front of Ironforge or in front of Orgrimmar and PvPing and waiting to queue in the battlegrounds and stuff like that. It was a lot of fun, man.
You talk about dungeons. And I remember doing Dire Maul back in vanilla, and that took hours, but you got to know your party.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Then when I came back for Cataclysm, I did Dire Maul. I'm like, oh, we're done?
Oh my God.
You just ripped through it.
Yeah, you're giving me some memories here, good and bad, of, coming home from school, being like 6 o'clock and jumping into a group for a dungeon, and then being in there till 9, 10 o'clock when finally the group, calls it quits, or you get through the dungeon, right? And like you're just waiting and say, all right, we just need one heal, just need a heal, we got a healer left. And you're right, it was an experience to get through. I mean, there's some dungeons that in my mind took Dire Maul is a good one to call out. Blackrock Depths is another one that could take a whole day if you wanted to go up to the Blackrock Fire would take a while. I remember that. Yeah, Ubers and Lubers, and I mean, there's Dire Maul was one as well. Like, it's just crazy to me because when I played vanilla, I think Vitalit and I touched a lot of the content, but there was also plenty of dungeons that, we tackled later on after we had kind of passed them level wise and things. And it's just, there was that sense of discovery that, I don't know if it will be there on the legacy servers, but there was something really special about discovering, a dungeon you had not seen before, or running for the first time and just taking, you're right. It could be a slog at times, but it was super rewarding to kind of get through it as a team.
Yeah. Well, and I was thinking about one thing, that people are so replaceable nowadays. I remember we went through Stratholme.
Oh, yeah.
Is it Stratholme? No, Scholomance.
I always mix Strat solo up.
Yeah, I never did calling a Stratholme on live. I only did it in a raid group in Dungeon Finder. But I remember when we did Scholomance, and we had a paladin. The paladin's name was Smuckers. Well, I
already know this is going to be bad.
He kept pulling the wrong way. I mean, he kept doing the wrong tanking. We were a guild group. We were like, okay, we're going to work with him. We're going to work with him.
Yeah, yeah.
The whole way along, we didn't want to drop him because we didn't want to take the effort to find another person. And I was thinking about the fact that vote kick, if it had been a Dungeon Finder, we could have just vote kicked him, pulled in a group finder.
Exactly.
But I never know if Smuckers, maybe he learned from that group and maybe he became better. But the funniest thing with that story is at the end, my friend turns to me and he says, Smuckers, with a name like that, it's got to be good.
That's hilarious. And you know what? That's a great point to bring up about vote kick, because we had not really had too much experience with it. Because when I played Legion, I basically just soloed. I didn't really do any of the dungeons. And so Vitalit and I when we came back to the 1-to-110, we ended up getting in a dungeon.
Oh yeah,
we were in a group. Do you remember the story?
Yeah. It was in Zangarmarsh, right? In Burning Crusade. It was in that instance I was in there.
Yeah, and so we ended up. I think you're right. I can't remember the exact instance. I just remember we're in there, everything's going smoothly, and it's like with the Dungeon Finder now and the lower level instances and everything. I mean, it could probably be done with 2 people. So we're just rolling through the content. But yeah, I think I stepped away from the computer to get a glass of water, and I even typed BRB. And I came back, and I had been kicked from the group, and I was like, Vitalit, did you say yes and vote kick me out of the group? And he's like, yeah, it just popped up. I just clicked it. So it's pretty funny. We're like,
well, there was also another guy on the team that was doing something very irritating to the rest of the group. And so as soon as I saw that pop up, I was like, okay, yeah, everyone's fed up with this healer. I couldn't remember exactly what he was doing. So I just clicked it. And then I had the realization that I literally just banned my brother from this instance.
He's kicked out. And so that was our kind of first experience with the vote kick. But you're right. I think I really like your point, which is back then, you learn through repetition, getting in and learning it for the first time. And, people's patience now is probably a little bit, the patience it gets fed up a bit quicker, and we'll just kind of vote kick people out and things. But yeah, back then it's they were in for the whole thing. You were going to make it through.
And also on that, something that had just reminded me of is it all kind of ties back to your presence or your reputation on the server. Because I remember an instance that happened to me when I was just starting the game. Is I think I was leveling my first character ever, and I was going through Dead Mines. I was just needing everything that dropped. And Raenes was on the other side of the room. And I was like, this group's getting really mad at me, and I have no reason why. And, I'm just needing, everything that drops. And he was like, no, you will become, exiled on this server if you become, a ninja looter. And I was like, what's that mean? And, I think I was so ashamed of not knowing that custom that you only need the stuff you need, that type of thing, that, I ended up re-rolling a character completely just to have a new name that people didn't know.
Wow.
And so that kind of goes back to that whole
you were doing this Welling Caverns, or this was in Dead Mines, right? Or
yeah, it was Dead Mines. Cross servers now, if you did something like that, no one would ever play with you again. So it doesn't really, no one really cares.
Yeah, and cross servers. Even I believe the U.S. has merged with Brazilian servers, so nowadays you might not even be the same region.
Really?
Yeah, that happened. I
didn't know that.
I think it was March or April when that happened, but they connected them for Dungeon Finder.
Interesting. I mean, it makes sense, but I am getting pretty jazzed up about the legacy servers, where I'm hoping it's either 1 or 2 servers, I guess. So heavily populated.
Big community.
Yeah,
like
the community there. And people hopefully have that approach, which they're willing to be patient and, you know, everyone's back for the ride together. So I'm hoping that, you know, it's just really populated and then good to go once it kicks off.
Do you think they'll do like the server events again with like the legacy, like the, what was it for AQ where you had to start collecting stuff in the cities? Do y'all remember what I'm talking about?
Oh, no, yeah, of course. Yeah, and I think they will. I mean, I think that's some of the details they're ironing out, which it will be like, what is the timeline for the server, right, when this content starts getting released? Because if you remember with Vanilla, I believe MC came as a patch as well. Like, I don't think MC was in the original Vanilla right as it came out. So
yeah, it wasn't open yet. You had to...
Yeah, they patched in all these dungeons and things. So I'll be interested to see, like, where they actually start Vanilla. Because it's, you know, it's up to their discretion, so it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
I think it was like Blizzard Watch who hypothesized that what if they were to release it from 1.0 with all the bugs, and over time you get each patch.
Oh my God. I mean, that's another great point that I was thinking about. Like, you know, I played a rogue as my main in Vanilla for most of it. And like, I remember stun locking. I remember your ambush and thing being based off how slow your main hand dagger was and things. And like, I'm interested to see if they will kind of revamp a lot of that and keep in kind of their new methodology with that. Or if, you know, like you said, they just go back to the Wild West and the way it was before, and then slowly kind of patch in and fix everything as it's progressing like they did before.
Yeah. Well, and if all the numbers are right and everybody that's showed interest in Classic do intend to come back, I think Classic could actually compete with retail. I know they're both retail at this point, but...
Mm-hmm. No, I gotcha.
And I think we actually could see a huge community on both. That's the one area where this could fall. If not enough people go back to Classic, there won't be a server community for that. But again, Classic's the one thing I'm seeing. I'm actually seeing WoW coming back into mainstream popularity after Classic.
No, I agree. And I know, you know, people talk about maybe cannibalization of the subscribers and things. And, you know, will people specifically come back just for it? Or is it people who already have a WoW account and then they're just hopping over occasionally? So TBD, but I am curious, and I don't know if you know this, Frazly, but is the subscription going to be, do they know if you pay for one, you get the other, or is it going to be specific to, like, you know, you pay a subscription fee for the vanilla servers?
In the BlizzCon announcement, it does sound like it will be the same subscription. You get access to both servers. So it'll be kind of like PTR, and where the same client accesses both. And actually, that was the reason why Classic could not come back for so long. They wanted to get it on the same client, so they didn't have to have two clients installed on your computer. So it's actually going to be running client code from Legion, but on Classic data, which is actually kind of mind-boggling.
Wow.
To think about it. Yeah.
That's actually really, that's a lot of moving parts to get that to work.
Well, especially with like Classic, the maps changed in Classic.
Yeah.
It's a different engine.
Yeah. I mean, I remember very early vanilla, there was like a lot of like, because that's before flying mounts or anything. And so there was a lot of fun trying to, like, you know, somehow maneuver your way up a mountain to get to like a hidden area or like get on top like Iron Forge or something. Those are some of my favorite memories. Like
the Iron Forge air base up top.
Yeah. I spent, I think, like 3 hours researching online how to like get to Hyjal once, you know, when it was all closed off or they hadn't developed it yet. And like those memories were really good, honestly.
Yeah, the unknown.
Exactly.
There was something that somebody was saying, we've been to the Emerald Dream, and we were always wondering what the Emerald Dream would be. We've been to Hyjal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they've really built out the universe. But you're right. Yeah, like back in Vanilla, scope was a little bit smaller, and there was a lot of unknown. You're right. It will be interesting. I'm looking forward to going back. And I actually, you know, I'm interested. I know you touched on dungeons, but I'm interested to see the 40-man raids again. And get in the mix for that. I think, you know, as a kid, I was always amazed that, you know, I was basically on there with, it was at that point, I guess when I was rating MC, I was like 12 or 11. And so I always...
With people our age now.
Yeah, exactly. Like 24, 25, or, you know, 18 up. And so it was always interesting, like being in the mix. But it's amazing how, you get 40 people together and, you know, just getting everyone's schedule together is its own challenge.
That still blows my mind.
Like I do not envy the guild masters and folks that were planning, like getting everyone online to make sure they were ready for raids. And
it was a full-time job for the GMs. Like,
yeah,
they had to.
But it will be fun. I mean, I'm really looking forward to going back. I mean, we ran through when we played through the Cataclysm content. We went to a lot of the old dungeons. We just steamrolling through it. Really steamroll through it. But it will be fun to do 40 again. And just, I mean, I remember, starting raids at 7 o'clock and going till 1 or 2 a.m. for a full clear of MC and just taking.
Mom's yelling at you to go to bed, but like you can't miss the last boss, like a loop you can drop. And she doesn't understand, but you're like, Mom, I literally cannot get off right now. Like, I have to finish this raid.
Yeah.
So, yeah, getting our mom to understand was a whole nother process, but that's been circumvented now.
Yeah.
Either I was in this raid or something, but I remember hearing about one raid where they had two of the parties that were on for half of the raid. Then they went to sleep. And the other one came back into the party. So like they were trying to clear it
like
for the
shift
kill.
Work, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Because it went so long.
Yeah, hey, your shift 1, you're gonna go up through 4 or 5 bosses, and shift 2 comes in for the finish. To finish up the raid, the night shift. Yeah.
Well, and I remember I was a priest, so I healed this like 3 groups. My focus was on these 3 groups. Cleanse, do everything that I can on these. Don't worry about anybody else. Just focus on these. I mean, and yeah, that is one thing we lose with like 20. Blows my mind that we can do 10-man raids.
Yeah. No. And what is it now? As far as like I know you said, I think Mythic Plus is the toughest dungeons, right?
Yeah, and that's the one where it can keep going up in level. Like I think I saw 27 was actually the highest
max for it.
Yeah. And Mythic 5 nowadays is harder than Mythic 5 was when Legion launched. So every raid tier, they keep increasing the difficulty. I got to like Mythic 5 and 6. I've not done Mythic 5 and 6 recently because my gear's not quite where it needs to be, but I was able to do those earlier.
And is that 5-man, 10-man, or what's the max kind of number of folks in now?
For that one, it's 5.
5-man, okay.
For raids, it's Mythic. Mythic, I think, is 10 or 20. I've not done a Mythic raid because I am not that good.
No, I got you. It's amazing. It's just amazing to think to get 40 people online and like working together to actually knock out some of these.
Yeah.
It had like the constructs of like a social group, like in real life. Like there was people that were like really cool in the guild that would be brought on every raid.
Yeah.
Me and my brother, we weren't the best geared. And, like, we certainly wouldn't get, like, the really good drops, like, for a priest. I think that staff was called Benediction or whatever in Molten Core that, like, the number 1 priest in the guild would get. But we would always just try to break into that social group. But we were, like, 13 and, 10 at the time. So it was kind of...
Yeah, we're under-optimized. We're not, I mean, it'd be like myself now playing and understanding what all I need to do. We weren't top of the DPS strut, so we're kind of sneaking our way in there. But yeah, I love like the MC gear is some of the most memorable gear. Like I do remember that Benediction staff, and I guess it would switch from Shadow Priest. It could switch forms, I believe, and Shadow you could use the other form. But yeah, no, the MC like when we raided, we got through MC, VG, and Onyxia, and then we did a couple bosses in BWL, and then we did AQ 20, I believe, but never and we did a little Nax as well too. But yeah,
I don't think I touched Nax. I don't think I was good enough for Nax. That was like some, frontier, like you had to be a trailblazer to do well in Nax. I remember they made it ridiculously hard or something.
And then I think Nax came back in Lich King, but it was fun. It's a lot of fun. And I think it'd be cool to come back now and do a 40-man raid. Now I know it might be a little tedious. I don't know, but maybe I'll be regretting that after I do 1 or 2, but just for the nostalgia alone, I think it'd be fun.
Well, and the good news is Discord can handle 40 people because I'm in Convert to Raid, and when we have our CTR guild events in Discord, it's packed, and anybody can talk at any time at certain points of the meeting. Otherwise, it'd be chaos. But the fact that we can have 40 people or more in a voice chat means that at least we have the capabilities to do it. Because I remember Vent and TeamSpeak could.
Oh yeah, Vent and TeamSpeak. Yeah, that's
Ventrilo.
original.
Oh, and Ventrilo, yeah.
Ventrilo, Vent, yeah. I remember I think I got a free team speak when I got Guild Wars, and then I'm pretty sure everyone used Vent most of the time. But yeah, you're right. Now there's a bunch of new ones, right? There's Discord. And WoW has its own within game, right? Is with its own, chat software within. But yeah, I forgot about that. We had to download Vent to talk to, and I don't think we had mics. Did we, Vitalit? I think we didn't have mics, and we're just kind of like passive and listening to everyone else.
Yeah, we definitely just type. I think there was a time where like they didn't know I was a kid, and I want to keep it that way because I felt like my credibility would, go out the window as soon as they found out I was 11 years old.
Oh, I'm amazed that you were doing that rating at 11. I mean, that's incredible. I was 14 and 15.
Yeah,
well, yeah. Fourth grade, I think you're like 10 maybe when you go into fourth grade. I started playing in fifth. Probably didn't start rating until sixth grade, so that's probably like 12.
But still.
12-ish. But yeah, definitely a preteen.
But we were understaffed on warlocks, I think, in the guild. And so at that point I was a warrior. I wasn't a tank. I think I was a fury warrior.
Yeah, you're a fury.
I would be on the bubble of getting into the raid, but he without fail would get into the raids every time as the warlock.
There'd be a little bit of jealousy there.
It's good times. Yeah. It will be fun. It will be fun to go back and experience those 40-man raids again.
Definitely.
Absolutely. And I'm planning to go back because I want to see what it was like. And I don't know if I'll stay because I do like the convenience of Legion Plus, but I want to see what it was like on some of the stories.
Yeah, it will definitely be really interesting. And I think, I was talking with Vitalit before the podcast. We were talking earlier this week, and we were chatting about the things on vanilla that we're most looking forward to kind of coming back and seeing. And raiding was one, and I think the other one was just real world PvP, which was thriving and just, they've been trying to replicate it since, but it was something else in vanilla.
Well, and I think one key was there weren't that many zones in vanilla.
Yeah.
So it was easier to catch people.
Yeah, and I think people, it took longer to level. So there was like just a surplus of people, for example, on the Barrens, which was pretty much a hotbed, and then Arathi.
Yeah.
Was it Arathi Highlands with South Shore? And kind of like it was just organic world PvP. I mean, there's some notorious. Wetlands was pretty notorious for having a lot of ganking as well. And, playing a rogue at the time, it was basically like the best time to be a rogue.
Well, I remember what you would do is you would have like me, for example, I would go to the Barrens and I'd be maybe just a little bit too high of a level for the people there. And because you can't just straight up attack them because you're alliance in like a horde territory. So like I would sit down, I would slash AFK. I'm not really AFK. And, Raenes would be in stealth as a rogue, just like waiting around the corner. So like try to tempt like these guys 10 levels, lower than us to attack me so their PvP would turn on. And then we would just like camp them for like 2 hours. This is what,
when I was talking about, we just had too much time. We didn't know what to do with all the time. I mean, we'd just spend the night going to Barrens and ganking on the Zeppelins, or I think our favorite spot to gank was Blackrock Mountain Gate. And we just hide behind the gate and be a nuisance. We were kind of those jerks, but it really was a lot of fun.
Good times.
Oh, absolutely. I'm actually just like daydreaming now. I'm thinking about all this stuff. I mean, I was always on the normal server because I was always afraid. But I remember the one time I went on a PvP server, I got ganked.
Oh my gosh. You couldn't, I mean, there was...
You'd have to log for the day, or for an hour.
Yeah, you'd have to take a break. I mean, it was crazy how you'd have to run from zone to zone, and certain people, it's, for example, if you're running from the Night Elf zone to Ellenwood Forest or stuff like that, I mean, you're crossing a lot of zones as a low-level character and getting ganker at the higher levels. Like I remember Wetlands was a lot of people would get ganked there. But yeah, you're right. PvP was a nuisance for a lot of people, but we had a lot of fun with it. And Vitalit was actually a Night Elf warrior at the time, so he would just shadow meld and then he would charge out of shadow meld.
Oh.
Yeah, we had another guy who was a hunter Night Elf as well, and he would shadow meld and just wait to aim shot out of shadow meld.
Yeah, he could aim shot in shadow meld before they fixed that.
Yeah,
it was so overpowered.
It's the world PvP will be when I'm on the side of getting to gank, it will be fun. But when you're on the opposite side, it's like, you're right. Sometimes you just have to log off and be like, all right, I'm stepping away for a little bit till this guy gets off my court.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a rite of passage. You know, you take it and then you make sure to give it back when you get to a good level.
Well, and the good news is you'll be able to log off of Classic, go to Legion for a little bit, or Battle for Azeroth at that point, then go back to Classic after it's all cooled down.
No, that's a great point. It's going to be really interesting to see how they run concurrently and kind of, it will be interesting to see, like, hey, will you be heavily invested in vanilla, or will you be mostly focused on Battle for Azeroth and then jumping back to the legacy server just when, you have downtime on that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Wow. I've appreciated having you all here because it's fun hearing the stories, and it's fun just hearing the joy of Classic and of friendship. And that's the one thing that I just find amazing about WoW, amazing about Blizzard games, is that community.
Definitely.
And the fact that it's a game 12, 13 years ago, we all started playing, and you had these memories, and now you can still come back to the same game 12 or 13 years later, and then they're bringing back what you remember. I mean, I can't think of many games that stayed this long. I mean, a lot of the other MMOs are gone.
Like a full circle. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, you're completely right.
Because like EverQuest, it's not the same.
Yeah, EverQuest I played for a couple of years, but I think, out of any game I played, the most vivid memories, and the game that me and my brother could play co-op truly was, WoW. Like, there's other games we co-op and things like Halo and stuff as well, but WoW just was the longest. I'm trying to remember how long what our slash played was on our characters in vanilla, but it would just be, we just come home from school, hop on, and you'd be on the game till your bedtime every night for
my Warlock was well over summer. 130 days played.
Wow.
It was just because it was like during the summer you're out of school, and it was like me and my brother would wake up at noon, and go sleep at 3 or 4, and horrible diets, but you can get away with it when you're that young.
Yeah.
But some of the fondest memories for sure.
Absolutely. And very few games can you still go back to, but WoW's still there.
Exactly.
And I think, it taught a lot from the perspective of even working the auction house and trying to get enough money for an Epic Mount and stuff like that. You were constantly approached with like new things you needed to do in the game, right? Like from a bunch of different angles. It wasn't just raiding.
Yeah.
In the PvP, you had kind of a gold grinding rep for certain factions and things. And that's still there, but, they had all those pieces in place in vanilla. So I think that's what, made it so good.
Looking forward to go back for sure.
One thing on what you just said about like the new pieces, the one thing that we can't go back to is the sense of rumors or the sense of not knowing what to do. Because like now we have Wowhead, we have all these different sites. We can look up a guide on anything. But do you remember like back in vanilla, you'd be like, you would hear from somebody about something over here or to try something. You're like, oh, I'll try that. Or I'll go there like, well, that didn't work. Or wow, that worked.
That's a great. When did ThoughtBot come out? Was ThoughtBot in? Like, I'm trying to remember when I was using ThoughtBot, but you're right. There was a point. I remember before school, I would get on the WoW forums and just read through because that's where I'd get all my knowledge. And there was a lot of hearsay and just anecdotal stories on how to do things. And you're right. That is long gone. At that point, there was no social media either. I think, I had a Zynga or something back then. So it's like there's no proliferation of information for the game. So you're right. That kind of trial and error piece will probably be gone from most of the people that have played vanilla through and through.
Well, I think ThoughtBot was actually deemed cheating because I remember it came out, went during vanilla, but in the circles I was running, it was kind of like, oh, you used ThoughtBot? You kind of cheated.
Yeah, and then now you have Wowhead and you have like add-ons that are, walking you through every quest. And you're right. It's back then there was something pure about, taking your lick and learning the ropes. But yeah, ThoughtBot was pretty good. I remember I came back and when Wowhead was the main one, I was like, what happened to ThoughtBot? Like ThoughtBot was our go-to for quite a while. Yeah.
Up to last year, the ThoughtBot site still popped up, but when you put anything, it turned it into a Wowhead search.
Oh.
Yeah.
Really? Huh. Oh, maybe they merged then or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, there was so many, like, there was, we were also talking about, there was a website that we used to frequent quite a bit. I can't remember the exact name. I think it was Warcraft Videos or basically it was all the PvP videos that got moved over to Curse Gaming and things. Yeah, we'd check that for new PvP videos and things. And basically it was the servers, that, and then ThoughtBot when it came out were the main spots that we got all our information for the game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there was one thing that just crossed my mind, and what kind of triggered it was when you mentioned, you know, how you kind of hear rumors that like are going through the server, but you have like nowhere to like cross check that information to see if it's right.
Yeah.
I remember someone told me that I had like a random hunter. When you were just getting into a game, you just make like 20 different characters and you level them to 20 and then you go, oh, I'm going to try a new one. I had a hunter and, you know, you get your pet when you're like level 10 or something. And then around level 20, I heard a rumor that there was a black wolf in the Barrens. I remember there was something that was rare about it. I can't remember. It was one of those rare spawns, but it only spawned what people would say is like every few days under this tree. I remember literally like, and these rumors might have had no basis behind them at all, but like I would go camp under that tree. I think his name was Pride Name maybe. And I mean, eventually one day I would sit there for hours, then log off next day. Like I'd even wake up like early in the morning to see if maybe he spawned and no one saw him. And I think I eventually got him as a pet, but like that just fueled my nostalgia, thinking like, you know, I had no clue whether or not this beast would spawn here, and I was able to like make him my pet, and I got pride in that.
Yeah.
And you didn't know the drops for things too, which was fun as well. Like you would learn the loot tables weren't readily apparent, whereas now I know there's like a dungeon guide feature, I believe. I don't know the exact name for it, but like they'll tell you the exact drops on each boss, and I'm not sure if it gives the percents, but yeah, there was kind of a sense of mystery around, hey, what was going to drop? And I wonder if, you know, if this guy's going to have something I need, because it was kind of nice. It would keep people in the dungeons all the way through and things, and keep them from dropping out early, because it's like, hey, you know, the last boss could have something I need. I'm going to hang around and go all the way through. I mean, and then there's also, you know, when the kind of like plague hit Iron Forge and things, where everyone was kind of dying from sickness from ZG, and like there was just a lot of like just interesting kind of just like these old stories just that vanilla allowed. Like there's a cool sandbox and let some of these things happen. It's fun.
Yeah. And there weren't like Warcraft logs. There wasn't the DPS meters. So some of it was trying your best to play better, but you didn't know how to optimize it. And now like you can do like analyzemywow.com. I've not tried it yet, but I know somebody who did, and it'll actually tell them, hey, in this one fight, you should have used this one skill more. And it's just like, wow.
Really?
Yeah.
That's crazy. They basically tell you the rotation for each boss that you should be using.
Yeah.
Like basically, wow.
Well, and using your logs, they'll tell you if you happen to use something more often than you should have, if you procced it at the wrong time in the wrong combination.
Wow. Yeah, that brings up a good point too. I wonder if they'll allow, what kind of add-ons they'll allow for the legacy servers. That'll be kind of interesting to see, because you're right. That's crazy to me that they're literally analyzing your combat logs and telling you what, you know, what you might have procced too early, or whether you're using your cooldowns at the right point and things of that nature. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Someone theorized that what if Blizzard were to randomize quest locations in Classic? Like, you know where everything is, so we'll randomly move things around. Like, wasn't the one that I forget the name, but somebody's wife in the Barrens you always had to find?
Oh, what is it? It's like Mathardic, or yeah. I know who you're talking about. It became a huge meme.
Yeah.
Are you talking about the one where you had to run to Thunderbluff from Crossroads?
His wife was down south, I believe. But yeah, his wife is gone. He had to go find his wife. But it became like a huge meme. But yeah, it starts with an M. I should know this, but...
And like someone was saying, like, what if Blizzard were to change the location of the quest NPC just to mess with people?
I could see them doing that. I could definitely see them doing that for some quests, specifically like that one, which is pretty famous. I mean, a lot of people know and have a meme to that quest.
Yeah, and DBM has said that they will be bringing out a version for Classic if there's an API. I love DBM. I use DBM all the time, but raids will be easier in Classic already because of add-ons.
Got it. Yeah, and I'm not familiar with what all in the add-on community right now for raiding and things. But yeah, when I was raiding in Lich King, just even having the DPS meters, and also there's like raid alerts, I believe, as well, which will tell you when the boss is doing a certain thing. And like it kind of takes away that aspect of like, I remember in MC and for certain bosses, like you're watching the boss pretty closely to see if there's any tail signs for when they're doing certain moves, or you're having to listen and invent for someone telling you, hey, it's time to move. There was an aspect of just repetition and learning, you know, through trial and error with the guild, you know, with 40 people. So hopefully they don't bring too many add-ons into vanilla and let people kind of organically learn that stuff.
Yeah. And like nowadays, what I hear in Discord is either the pre-raid information or I hear when I'm messing up, but I don't hear, proc. There's a few times where if it's a group-wide thing to watch out for, you'll hear the raid leader say, everybody watch out for this. But sometimes I have to wait for DBM to say, hey, it's time for you to move out of the way. Or there is an add-on called GTFO, which is pretty incredible. If you're standing in fire, it's like,
Get out.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
That was the most fun, though, is DPS would be focused on their rotation or, whatever. They were really trying to optimize the damage. And they're just sitting in, like, whether it's fire or sludge or whatever, they're just standing in and just, like, if you're a heal, and you can probably relate to this, Razzie, is playing a priest. You're watching everyone's health bar, and then you just see one guy dropping. Like, I couldn't have done anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what.
Give me a flash heal.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm out of mana.
To throw divine and eventually stuff, but it's like, oh my god, OOM is another. There's so many good. Yeah, it's fun to reminisce on it. It is, but yeah, like I just remember in Burning Crusade, I raided a little bit as a druid, and yeah, I would just people standing in things, and you're trying to heal, and someone just drops you. Like, all right, I don't think there's anything I could do there. That guy was just just standing in the in the boss's effect.
Yeah. I mean, and that's still the same. It happens. I die every once in a while. I died on, it was an LFR for the latest raid, but I died to the blades that I did not see that were just rotating right in front of me. Like, I was standing in the blades. It's my own fault.
Yeah, and it happens to everyone, right? You're so embarrassed after too. You're just like, all right, I learned. Never again. Great. Never again.
Yeah. Wow. This has been a great interview. I thank you all for coming on. I mean, I could talk for hours just reminiscing about vanilla.
Yeah. It's fun. We were looking forward to it as well. I know when we were kind of figuring out what all we thought would be talked about and stuff, we were just hoping it would focus on vanilla because it's so much fun to hear just everyone's stories and thoughts. And, even with me and Vitalit will remember a story and tell it. I don't even remember that. And I'm thinking back and I'm like, Like I do remember him going to the Barrens and camping out a pet, but it's just funny to like just hear kind of everyone's thoughts and memories of the experience.
Yeah.
And everyone that played vanilla has these very unique memories. They might say it and it means nothing to you, but that's like the pride of their childhood, which is cool, or whenever they played.
I think for me, the biggest things that I remember is one New Year's, me and Vitalit just ganked on a Zeppelin, like through midnight and everything. And it's just like the dichotomy of that as compared to, what I did this year for New Year's. It's a lot of fun. It's just pure and it was enjoyable. And I'm looking forward to getting back and hopefully getting involved in a good guild and just enjoying playing vanilla a little bit again with everyone. I'm looking forward to it.
Absolutely. Going forward, are you going to be staying with Legion or do you think you're going to head back to Classic?
And I don't want to speak for Vitalit, but I think we're going to, right now we're sitting at level 97. So we're wrapping up Draenor.
Yeah.
And I think I'm going to come to Legion. If I know my brother, I think he'll get the hooks in him for a little bit because I was playing by myself and was having a great time with Legion. It depends when those legacy servers come, right? Like there hasn't been a date announced for when they're coming out, right?
No, I've heard different speculation.
Whenever they finish.
Yeah. Bell of Ponecast gave one of the more realistic ones, probably about 2 to 3 years out. It sounds right. I mean, I could possibly see a year.
I mean, Blizzard's known for,
take their time. Whatever makes a great product, honestly. I can wait.
So, I mean, the better question might be, it sounds like we might be playing a little Battle for Azeroth before legacy servers. But I think we're going to continue. We're going to keep doing our journey. And it's been a lot of fun to just, when we get off work, to just hop on the game and play for a little bit together. And it's a fun kind of way to keep in contact because we don't live in the same city. So it's always fun for us to get on and play together.
Yeah.
Look into playing alts in 7.3.5 because I've heard a lot of good things about the improved leveling experience. It's actually more challenging to level up. You get to stay in zones longer, so it might be more fun.
Okay, that's the most recent patch that's come out?
No, it's the one that's coming out, or by the time this is released, 7.3.5 will probably be out.
Got it. That's the one where they do I forget the name of it, but it's like how they did Legion, where you can experience any zone you want in any order, right? Then the mod scale and thing.
Yeah, for older content, it's not exactly Legion because there are level ranges. So like Westfall is like 20 to 60, I believe. But then past that, you can go to any expansion from like 60 to 85 or 90. And then I think Warlords and Legion are their normal areas, but I have heard rumors that Warlords will have scaling a little bit more in it. But then once you get the Legion, you can pretty much do whatever you want, and Legion go wherever you want. Only thing I've heard is Argus is a little bit more challenging. You might want to be a little bit more geared before heading there.
Got it. That was one thing I really liked about Legion. Just a quick side note was the scaling leveling. I thought it was fun. You can go kind of where you wanted to go, and you weren't bound on the trail of like, hey, you need to go to these zones in this order. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, and how all the zones had their own story, but then they meshed into the bigger story of WoW. And this has definitely been a more story-heavy expansion. Everything I've heard is Legion's been kind of Blizzard came back to its roots and said, what made WoW great? Let's do more of that. And then Battle for Azeroth is the same thing. It's going back to the roots of WoW and saying, what do people like? Let's do more of it. The PvP overhaul is to make PvP more exciting and stuff like that.
Now, on the cutscenes, you're right. The story in Legion, I was really impressed with. It didn't even feel like WoW to me to an extent. I thought it was really good. I was telling Vitalit this, and I'm excited for him to experience it because they actually had like meaningful cutscenes and things. And Draenor had pretty good cutscenes as well too. Like I remember there was one with Thrall that was really good. But I think Legion was just nice because each zone kind of had a pretty fleshed out story. And I was playing the Horde side for Legion when I played 100 to 110, and I was just overall really impressed with the experience. There's a reason why there was a lot of folks returning, and the game got really good reviews for kind of bringing that story back.
Absolutely. And Blizzard's been hiring from their community for different things. Arcane Ratzel Hannah Straw was an artist who popped up in the WoW community drawing and doing art for WoW. She's now one of Blizzard's art, and some of the amazing cinematics in game for Legion because Taryn Gregory started out doing machinima, I believe, in vanilla, and he then pushed things forward. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's incredible.
Yeah, and Blizzard's tapping into their community. There's people who are passionate about the game. That shows too, because Taryn Gregory was so excited for BlizzCon. Like, he could not wait for people to see all the stuff that was announced. He was getting it. I was like, wow.
BlizzCon was great this year.
Yeah.
BlizzCon was really good this year. And another addiction for me is Hearthstone, and like I think a Ben Bro guy I think he was delivering pizza in or something, and he ended up with a job and is now the head of one of their most successful product lines. So Blizzard's good at they listen to their community and they bring folks in, and I'm excited for Battle for Azeroth, and I'm really excited for Vitalit to experience Legion too. I think he's going to enjoy it. It will be fun to play it together.
I'm excited for sure.
Yeah, I enjoyed there were nights I could not go to bed on time because I was like, I want to get this zone done.
No, yeah, I was telling Vitalit that I was like, with a game like WoW, I'm pretty disciplined at when I need to get off. But with Legion, I had a couple late nights, kind of just working my way through because it's got that nice progression in it, and there's enough things going on with your
order hall.
Order hall, there you go. I always get it mixed up. Yeah. Draenor has kind of their own take on everything as well.
Garrison.
Yeah, the Garrison. But yeah, no, I mean, it's a blast because everything kind of ties together, and because you have your order hall as well, you're seeing these really, huge characters in the lore at your order hall hanging out, and you get I love the idea of how you have one weapon that you're kind of leveling up through the whole expansion. I think it was just a really well put together expansion.
Yeah.
I'm excited for sure.
The next one has the necklace that you upgrade, and that'll actually make it even easier because you don't have to worry about multiple weapons. You just worry about upgrading one necklace. They're taking what they've done and improving the good parts, and thankfully throwing out the parts that were not so much fun, because I have only leveled one spec this expansion because I'm putting everything into a...
Yeah, that was the interesting thing, is you kind of get locked into a spec, but I don't think anything can be as bad as vanilla, where it exponentially grew, and it finally got to the point where it was like, I cannot respec. It's just too much gold.
Yeah.
Because I think the first spec was 1 silver or maybe 1 gold, and then it just kept growing exponentially. And so I remember it was to the point where it was like, all right, I'm not. And luckily I played I forget the exact points, but I think it was 21-8-22. I played that Sealed Fate Rogue, and I just sat on that spec for most of the vanilla just because it got expensive to start respecking. And for a class like yours, where it was a priest, it's kind of a bummer because you couldn't switch the way it is now, where it's you can play Shadow back and forth, go holy to heal your raids, later that night and things.
Yeah. I actually have a group in solo spec for my warrior. I forget the change when I'm in the capital cities. It is weird, and it's something I take for granted now, because I remember when they made that change to talents being able to be switched anywhere in Legion. Now I just I get so accustomed to it. hopefully the gold respec is something that they hopefully will be like, we'll reset your cap at a certain point. I mean, there's some things that I do hope Wizards gonna fix, but I could also see though that was vanilla.
Yeah, it's interesting. One that I did want to bring up just popped into my mind was with my rogue, like the herbs for making the poisons and the herbs.
Oh
making,
yeah,
difficulty, vanish powder, blind, like to be able to blind, you had to have a reagent. Like you had to have.
Oh wow!
I had to keep like a whole bag full of vanish powder.
I forgot about that.
It will be interesting to come back.
I forgot about that too.
I'm having to buy, I'm having to make my poisons for PvP, deadly poison, and then I'm having to have my vanish powder. And then if you want to be really pro, you got to have, a couple stacks of thistle tea in the bag for PvP. That was one thing that just popped in my head, and that will be something that I definitely will not miss from vanilla. And I'm assuming that's going to come back, so it will be kind of funny.
A blast from the past there.
Oh yeah, like mages, you have to have like your stuff, your soul shards for your teleports, or the reagent for the teleports.
Oh yeah,
warlock.
Yeah,
warlock. Shards.
Can warlocks even get soul shards anymore?
I don't think so.
You have to have one to do soul burn.
Yeah, and like hunters with ammo.
You could have a bag that would only hold them. It would only hold your soul shards. Yeah. See, it's a lot of aspects like
or like ammo for hunters and things. Like, do they have to get? Like even as a rogue, I had to have an ammo bag just for my gun, which I'm using like haphazardly at the end of PvP fights and things. But you had to have your ammo all stocked up, and there's a lot of stuff where people who didn't play vanilla, I think, are going to be kind of like taken aback at the amount of small little things like that you have to do just to stay on top of it to make sure that. Rogue, I just remember having to get so many. It probably wasn't even the worst, but I just remember having to get thistle tea. I took herbalism as one of my professions just so I could kind of circumvent some of that. But it was really interesting that every one of a lot of the good moves that Rogue had, like blind and vanish, were both on required an ingredient to be able to use.
Oh yeah.
Wow. Yeah. The more I hear about this stuff, I'm like, do I want to go back?
Yeah, I feel like that's how the conversation always goes. Everyone's really gung-ho, but I think there is something to be said about once you get back in, it's a lot of fun, but there's parts that are tedious, like grinding up, the weapon skill, keeping all the ingredients and things in your bags for certain things. But there, like I think, Bradley, you put it best where it's like, hey, you can be doing your thing with Legion or Battle for Azeroth, and then when you're having some free time, whether you got a kind of side game going on, you can come back to vanilla and play a little bit and see play it as much as it's enjoyable and then let it go if it isn't.
Yeah. And one thing that I want to put out there, just because of how long it could be until we get Classic, if you ever do want a little bit more challenge, definitely look at WoW challenges if you have not already. Stone has done an amazing job with that. And there are different types of challenges, and like the Iron Man challenge, there's a lot of different things you can do right now in retail to make it more challenging.
Wow, that's cool. Is that actually integrated in the achievement system, or is this outside of the game? Like, kind of just like, I know Nuzlocke for Pokemon, where you basically, if your Pokemon dies, it's over. Is it just like a community outside of WoW that's putting these rules together?
Yeah, it's an outside community, but they are using the API so you can track how you're doing it, and they've figured out how to track.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and Stone has been doing this and they have a weekly podcast just about these WoW challenges. And I have not taken one yet. That's one of my goals for this year, to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But part of it is with the Iron Man. If you do it, you have to delete that character.
Oh, what's okay? So it's basically like Diablo hardcore, where it's like if your WoW character dies, you're deleting it.
Yeah, and there's one where it's bloodthirsty, where you can only level up by killing things. So there are different challenges that they've set up, but to add more challenge and add a little bit more variety to the game.
That's awesome. No, I remember.
We'll have to look at it.
From vanilla, I think I remember people doing or maybe it wasn't vanilla, it might have been BC, but people doing pacifist challenges where they would only complete quests that didn't require killing things and go, from level 1 to level cap. That sounds really cool, though, and it could put a breath of fresh air in the game. I mean, I think, luckily, Vitalit's enjoyment of Legion, I think, is going to have a huge effect on my enjoyment of Legion. But once we get done with that, it could be interesting to look into, especially if there are challenges that are more like are the challenges only start from a new character, or can you pick them up, for example, on your main in Legion and do some of them, or is it only for leveling?
I think it's only for leveling just because of how they track it. Like, they use the WoW Armory to track where you are, but I could be wrong. So it's wowchallenges.com, but it's definitely a site that I follow, I support, because I love adding more variety to the game. And they're going to be looking into WoW Challenges for Classic as long as the API and stuff allows for it.
That sounds really cool. Yeah, we'll have to check that out. I'm interested to see kind of what all the challenges they have, because that does sound like fun in kind of a crazy way, like kind of an insane way a little bit.
Yeah, but it's like what you were saying, having something different, just that way it does not get monotonous. You can do something different, and that's why this year I'm at a place where I'm ready to try one of these challenges. So I'll be starting at Iron Man.
Yeah, and just because now they have the heirloom gear and things where it makes leveling almost trivial. Even us leveling together, really, we haven't had anything that's been remotely a challenge. Drainer's starting to have a little bit of it, and I know Legion will be good once we get into Legion, but it really is amazing how easy they made the leveling experience. It makes sense, but yeah, doing a challenge like that would definitely add a spin on it and make it much harder.
It is going to get a little bit more complicated leveling once 7.3.5 launches. So it remains to be seen until it's fully tested how easy or hard it makes leveling. But early data is it shouldn't be super challenging, but it's going to be a lot more challenging than it is right now. So you're kind of in a lull period when you're leveling. So I might recommend doing another alt once it launches if you want to try it again.
Experience a new, with a little bit more challenge. And then, I mean, the goal is once we wrap up this 1-to-110 would be, in however long it takes for them to release the vanilla servers, would be to do 1-to-60 and on vanilla servers too, which would probably be harder than we remember.
Yeah, I think that would take things full circle, is finishing 1-to-110, maybe trying like a challenge while we wait for the classic servers, and then, raiding in the classic servers. Like, once I clear like Molten Core again and do all that, like, I think I'm going to be just very content with the game.
Yeah.
It's a lot of memories of grinding from vanilla. I think I was commenting on this with Vitalit earlier that I'm pretty sure from 50 to 60, there was a huge dearth in content. And it was interesting to I remember I was just grinding mobs in some of these zones to try to get the levels up. Like, it was a process. It's going to be an experience when we go back. But Legion, I mean, it's going to be good. Just looking forward to, I know they released Arthas, right? And the planet and everything. And that's before I quit Legion. So I'm looking forward to, that came after I quit Legion. So I'm looking forward to getting Vitalit in there and us kind of checking out Legion together and seeing the content and everything.
Yeah, and Argus is definitely, it's not a cakewalk. I mean, I've died a few times, but then again, I die a lot, so that could just be me.
No, it's good. It will be fun. Yeah, I think for Argus, I believe they announced that at BlizzCon when I was watching it. It looks like a lot of fun. So a little bit of healthy challenge is nice, but there's, they do cater to the casuals, as people like to say. So a nice healthy mix is probably the right way for them to go on the main servers.
Oh, absolutely. And Mythic Plus has added more challenge to the main games. That's actually been a nice thing of Legion. Thank you all for joining for this interview.
We really enjoyed it too. I know it was originally scheduled for 30 minutes, but when you just get on the nostalgia train, it can go for a while. And we appreciate you having us come on. And
absolutely,
it's always fun to chat about it. And of course, I'll shamelessly plug our Twitter, which is Back2Azeroth. We have our blog kind of connected there. So if anyone's interested in checking out the journey, we kind of post things and screenshots and things of what's going on. I'd like to get connected with you. What server are you playing on right now?
I'm Eric Peak Alliance, and I'm part of Convert to Raid. Shameless plug for them. If you want a big community, I mean, it's 8,000 members. Definitely join. There's 8 or 10 sub guilds. I think I last heard 50 raid teams. So there's plenty of teams you can get involved in.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's awesome. Yeah.
One of our claims to fame is we are run by Pat Crane of the Convert to Raid podcast. So it's awesome having.
Oh, got it. Okay.
yeah. It's fun having these guild meetings, and you hear the same person that you hear on the podcast. You hear him in the meetings,
in your Discord, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, wait, what's going on here? No, that's awesome. And I think that's a big thing for us as the community. We'll have to look into it as well. I don't Actually, I was asking Vitalit before we got on the call. I forgot what server we're on. We're Alliance, though. We're on one of the biggest Alliance servers. I remember we just Googled, like, hey, what are the biggest servers? All right, we're going on one of these, just because we wanted to see people while we were leveling.
Yeah.
But it's not Area Peak, so.
I had Realm transferred to Area Peak because to join the guild.
We'll have to check it out. That's cool, though. That's good to hear, especially as we start to get up in that Legion content.
Yeah, and
it's fun to have a guild to go raid, but
it's a big guild, but so much opportunity, and the three of you sound like you would fit in.
That sounds awesome, and it's definitely just an opportunity in the future. Like, we're always open to, expand our horizons when it comes to World of Warcraft, because we just love everything about it.
Yeah, it's stealing at my play, which sounds crazy, but there's so much to do. And and you've inspired me now to go back to Classic when it opens up, because it's like, hey, I can just add a little bit more gameplay. Yeah,
we'll have to get on the same server. Yeah, we'll have to. Yeah, exactly. We'll all be playing vanilla together. So.
Oh yeah,
great.
I'm dying.
Oh, thanks again. This was fun.
Absolutely. Thank you to Back2Azeroth for chatting with me. You can find them at back2azeroth.wordpress.com or on Twitter at twitter.com/back2azeroth. You can find me at frazly.com, on Twitter at frazlytastic. You can find the show at FrazlCast.com. Get in touch with us. We love to hear from you. You can email us at show@FrazlCast.com. Leave a voicemail at either 1-440-536-3711 or on our voicemail page at FrazlCast.com/voicemail. You can tweet us at FrazlCast. You can also join our Discord at sparkspan.com for discussion during the week. Until next week, be awesome. Welcome to episode 31 of the Fraz Report. Today is Friday, March 23rd, 2018. I do not know what news has been going on in Azeroth this past week. I am coming to you live through my Gnomish communicator. I have been on the go investigating a lead all week. Last Friday, after recording the Fraz Report episode 30, I was eating a meal at the Blue Recluse. My friend Tom, proprietor of that fine establishment and sexiest voice on their podcast, came up to me. I just happened to have a microphone recording, as all people who are investigative journalists seem to walk around recording everything.
Frazly, my gnome. I was thinking the other day about how we haven't seen Mr. Smite since before Cataclysm. Can you investigate this, please? I was actually making him a birthday cake for Vanilla Dungeon Appreciation Day. Oh, how I loved how he killed me in vanilla, and my party would laugh at me. Oh, the shame.
I remembered Mr. Smite. I had fought him when I was a wee lad in vanilla. I had not realized since the Cataclysm that he was missing. This got me intrigued. A missing person story. Something that hasn't been discussed. This is just as big as the fact people forget that ogres in vanilla didn't have fully enclosed loincloths. Many gnomes still shudder at the sight, as they had to fight ogres from behind during fights to avoid their attacks. With this, I finished my delicious meal at the Blue Recluse Tavern and set off for a flight to Westfall. Once I arrived in Sentinel Hill, I started looking around for clues. I asked the local innkeeper if she had any clues. She informed me that Mr. Smite would occasionally come to the hill. He would often be drunk and very rude to anyone that came near. He was always trying to evade authorities, but he actually would routinely pay her to have supplies for his crew shipped in from Stormwind. She wasn't one to turn away some coin. She talked about how times have always been tough for Westfall residents. She raged on about how Stormwind has never been overly supportive of the populace. She said many of the residents feel that King Anduin still treats them as second-class citizens, that he doesn't care about them as much as he cares about the citizens of Stormwind and Elwyn Forest. She went into a long political rant, and I got distracted from the conversation. Instead, I started watching a butterfly out the window. It was very colorful with red and gold stripes. What a wonderful butterfly. When she was done rambling hatred at my King Anduin, she alerted me back to attention. I apologized for drifting off. She scolded me for wasting her time. She told me she had not seen Mr. Smite since the Cataclysm. I asked her whether she knew if Mr. Smite had any relatives still alive. She told me that there was actually a relative of Mr. Smite that lived in Westfall, a cousin of Mr. Smite, who lived in a home not too far away from the inn. They were a Tauren named Madame Bovid. I thanked her for the information and hoofed it over to their house. I was glad to be away from these very mean verbal attacks against the greatest king we've had since Varian. May the light rest his soul. Once I arrived, I could tell that this individual lived off of very good fortune. Their yard was very lush, full of green grass, gorgeous flowers. They even had a bunch of workers watering the fields and working on the yard. I went up to the door and knocked. After a few minutes, and many locks being unlocked, the door opened to reveal a woman who had to be in her late 60s. She asked me why I was there. I told her that I was here regarding Mr. Smite. She shrieked.
Is he dead? That boy I knew one day he'd get into an utterly ridiculous mess.
No. I actually am trying to figure out what happened to him, man.
Oh, whew. My cows almost gave out into shock. Come on in, dearie.
She welcomed me into her spacious home. It was bigger on the inside. We sat down in 2 leather chairs, which surprised me as they looked like cow leather, but I didn't question it. She told me about how Mr. Smite grew up as her younger cousin. She was about 15 when he was born.
He was such an innocent little kid until he changed into his teen years. Started hanging around with some bad people. He had aspirations all through his childhood to be something more. He felt like there was more to life than just what he knew. As he got older, he left this ideal. He had joined a gang of pirates, and we grew apart.
This was fascinating. Mr. Smite had grown up as a sweet kid, believing in something bigger than himself. Then he joined forces with Van Cleef's gang, a story all too similar to ones I have sadly heard before. I asked Madame Bovid if Mr. Smite had any friends that were not part of the pirates.
No, dearie. Mr. Smite didn't wear depends.
No, I said friends, not depends.
Oh, yeah. So my sweet child. He had a goblin friend named Kizgak. Those two were inseparable until Kizgak's family moved to Howling Fjord in Northrend. After this, Mr. Smite would keep in contact with Kizgak through a goblin communication device. It exploded 4 times a week, but Kizgak hadn't shown him how to fix it, even after Kizgak left. And while Mr. Smite was joining the pirate gang, they kept in contact using the device.
I thanked Madame Bovid for her time. I had a lead on someone who kept in contact with Mr. Smite. Our story was moving in a good direction. I dashed over to the Howling Fjord to meet Kizgak. I landed in Valgard in the Howling Fjord. Once there, I went to the inn to inquire about Kizgak and his family. Lo and behold, the bartender turned out to be Kizgak himself. His family had hit hard times. His mother had passed on the boat from Menethil Harbor to the Howling Fjord due to sickness on the long journey. Once here, his father was killed when Vrykul attacked the settlement one day. Kizgak was taken under the wing of the former innkeeper. We sat down in the empty inn to discuss what he knew about Mr. Smite.
Yeah, Mr. Smite? Why are we calling him Mr. Smite, by the way?
I don't know. Everyone has just called him that.
His name is Anguston, but his friends called him Angus. Oh, yeah. I see why we're calling him Mr. Smite. Anyway, Mr. Smite was my best friend. We'd been through so much together.
After you moved here, did you keep in contact?
Yeah, buddy. We kept in contact. The communication lessened sometimes, for a bit. It was very sporadic. For months, Once it felt like a year before he contacted me. And then one day, I get this call from Mr. Smite. He had this energy that he had been missing.
Kizgak pauses at this moment, thinking about the call.
He told me Kizzy. That's the name Mr. Smite called me. I never gave him a nickname. I don't like to do that hullabaloo stuff. But he said, hey, Kizzy, I've done with the pirate life. And you know those rumors about lands in between Kalamador and the Eastern Kingdoms? Yeah, I'm going to go sailing. See if I can find a new place to go.
Mr. Smite had a change of heart? This was something I never expected of a dungeon boss. After that, have you heard from him again?
Yeah, years later. He messaged me on the device I made for him. Told me he found a land of pandas. I thought he was crazy. He said, no, these also don't look like a panda from the, World of Warcraft Vanilla Collector's Edition. These are ginormous, some very fat pandas. He told me that he found his true calling. He joined a movement called the Order of the Way of the Orderly Way of the Order of the Way or Orderly Way or something. And he thanked me for being my friend and all the friendship. And he told me he had to forego all communication to achieve his calling. I never heard from Mr. Smite after that.
That must be Pandaria. Thank you for your time, Kizgak.
Anytime, bub.
I went to Pandaria in search of this movement. You wouldn't believe how many movements there are in Pandaria. Finally, one of the bartenders at the Vale of Eternal Blossoms knew exactly where this movement was located. Right before we went live for this broadcast, I just made it to the monastery in Pandaria. We are about to see if Mr. Smite is alive. I am about to enter the monastery that Kizgak mentioned. Okay, I am walking through the front gates right now. I don't see him. Oh, no! I see him! I see Mr. Smite! Okay, I don't want to disturb Mr. Smite, because he looks so serene in his duties. But he looks happy. He looks at peace finally. He found his purpose. Well, this just goes to show you, even dungeon bosses can have a change of heart. We finally discovered what happened to Mr. Smite. Now you know the rest of a story no one ever really thought of for an NPC that got removed in a WoW expansion until Tom mentioned it once on an episode of The Blue Recluse, then told me in Facebook Messenger when I asked him for ideas for a script for this show. This has been the Frazzle Report. I am Frazzly Sparkspan. You can find the show at FrazlReport.com. Until next week, be awesome. Oh, I can't wait to get home. I think I'll pick up a cheeseburger. FrazlCast is a fan podcast that covers Blizzard games. We are not affiliated with Blizzard Entertainment. Views expressed by the host and guests are their own. Some of the art, music, and sound effects come from Blizzard games and are owned by Blizzard Entertainment, Inc. No copyright infringement is intended.
Want more awesomeness every week? Visit weeklyawesome.com. Weekly podcasts to make your week better. Remember to smile and be awesome.